sorry guys. I had my earphones plugged in and I forgot. So anyway, this is what live video is, right? Mistakes. And we just let them go. So my name is Tracy Brown. I'm your somatic nutrition therapist and attuned eating specialist. And this week we are going to be doing, oh my goodness, like what the base of my practice has transformed into over the last, I guess almost 10 years now, I guess 9. But I'm going to give you a little background as to why I'm doing this work differently than what most people do, and why I think that you might be interested in it and it'd be worth a listen. So let's get started. So what I noticed in my own experience, and so many of my clients, is that we know what we need to do. We know we might need to slow down, take more breaks, take risks, try more food, try new food, be with the emotions and the sensations that come up, stop moving, basically, when we know that we're moving just to avoid ourselves and our feelings. And our brains can tell us all day long that it's about calorie burning. And if I could just eat the right foods or lose weight by this exercise or this meal plan or this diet, then I can be happy and safe and protected and lovable and all that. So I hear you. It seems like it's only about that on the surface. But the truth is, all dysregulated eating, dieting, restricting, binging, purging, overexercise, self-harm, all of those things are adaptive, or something we also call defensive strategies. They're intelligent strategies that we may have developed way long ago based on feeling overwhelmed and too much, overwhelmed or not enough support for our systems to process and handle. Basically at times when we're vulnerable and we didn't have any choices, we didn't have what we needed, basically. Or we felt like what we needed wasn't accessible or too much. And so that led me, when I kind of started really looking at every person I've ever worked with is supremely intelligent. And a lot of people that I work with and I talk to are very motivated, and they're like, well, why do I still have these thoughts? I've read all the books, I've listened to the podcast, I watched all the videos, and it's not for lack of knowledge, really, about what needs to happen. It's more about lack of knowledge and not quite yet enough capacity and resiliency to feel all that there is under the surface without reaching back for those defensive strategies. And it takes time. And so today and all this week, we're going to be talking about polyvagal theory, window tolerance, and what a lot of these strategies really mean beyond if I could just get thinner, then I could be happy and people wouldn't judge me and wouldn't criticize me. I do want to say a word about that. This work, this trauma-informed work, is not about dismissing the current day traumas we have, which is overwhelmed from being stuck in the house, or the uncertainty, or that there are people that there are people who judge other people. And we can know it in our minds that when people judge other people, it's really about projecting and getting away from their own hurts inside that they just don't know how to even acknowledge, tolerate, and it's just so much easier. And we are all, what's the word? We have all been programmed to some degree. Those of you who are very sensitive, you're also very aware of the programming. You just don't know how to always put your finger on it, why this makes me feel uncomfortable, why even though I might follow the programming, I feel so much shame and guilt. It's because you know that it's not inherently true, but you just don't know how you know. And so there's a lot to it here, right, under the surface. And so today, I just want to introduce you to some concepts and some resources. And then as the week goes on, we're going to talk about what the different eating and body image strategies are and what you're truly looking for. And then it's up to you to decide what to do with that information next. So today, we're going to talk about wired and tired just a little bit. But before I do, I just want to give you some terms and some concepts that you can go look on your own. If you're interested in learning more about how to use it in depth, you can join my Peaceful Eating community. You can work with me individually to get like the fast track, to lighten your learning curve. It took me 9 years to really understand what there is available out there about polyvagal theory, about how trauma impacts our social engagement system, how overwhelm, impacts our choices, basically. But so here's a term, Dan Siegel. He is, a researcher and a psychiatrist, and he studies basically our neuroplasticity around managing stress. You could look up someone named Alan Shore. He's a great one around, early development and attachment with our ability to be resilient and manage stress. You could look up Deb Dana, who's really great around the window of tolerance, which plays off Dan Siegel's work. And of course, any of the great trauma therapists and researchers that we know, like around polyvagal theory, Stephen Porges and Bessel van der Kolk and like a Deb Dana and a Diane Poole Heller for attachment work. And these are just a few names. There's so many. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of really great people. Ariel Swartz, her work is really good. She has some good blog posts about all this stuff too. So anyway, these are like the concepts that I teach all my clients, and then I go deeper with like how that impacts our eating and our digestion. So today, window tolerance real quick is basically just our ability that is movable, plastic, our ability to eat normatively and digest normatively with life happening around us, and being able to like yield and access clarity about like what we need to eat, how hungry and full we are, how to reach and get our needs met without feeling like it's a threat, and being able to take it in and keep it and digest that experience. So those are all the things we work on around food and body. And, just again, being able to have the clarity about food and who you are and values around all those things. Okay, so the window of tolerance, if you have a really small window of tolerance for stressors coming in, if there's nowhere for you to land, we'll either, let's say you have a stressor come in and it makes you hyper activated, which is your fight or flight. And there will be accompanying sensations and feelings and reactions that go with that don't look like normative eating. They look like calorie counting. And we're going to talk all about that Wednesday and Friday. But just to give you a summary. So there are certain thoughts and behaviors that go with sympathetic response in our systems. And there are certain behaviors, this is called your parasympathetic. And there's two parts to it. And your parasympathetic is freeze, like functional freeze, like everything's kind of foggy and things are hard to get going, feeling heavy, low, sadness, maybe even depression. And please, I call it people please. It can be please, you can call it the feign response, the submit response. It all just means like you're giving away your wants and your will to maybe get somebody else to not to criticize you or to hurt you, or to shift the situation a bit, So, there's other states that we can talk about, but those are the four main ones in terms of your nervous system. And then the other part we have is called our ventral vagal of our polyvagal, which we're not going to talk too much about today. And that's our social engagement. Our social engagement and safety and clarity is going to be in that window of tolerance. So we have, again, I'll have some photos up this week, don't worry, to look at it. But all you need to know is that you can be hyperactivated, hypoactivated, or in your window of tolerance pretty much. And for all different kinds of circumstances, you can have different experiences that have helped you feel safe in certain circumstances, and then some that don't. And unless we have safe relationship and strategies to work through those things and resources, we tend to be in basically threat responses. How that looks with our food is what we're going to talk about today when you're in the wired but tired stage of things. And if you're in wired and tired, you have probably been in sympathetic fight or flight, trying to control your calories, restrict your food, or maybe binging or purging or over-exercising or self-harm or obsessive thinking, some kind of like braced body actions for a long time. And you might know that you've been there a long time and you feel like you can't get yourself out. And one of the strategies that your body will do if we don't yield and basically surrender to rest and do this in safe company is that we'll collapse. So you'll see a lot of people like really wired and then their body shuts down. Really wired, you shut down. And then of course that's going to impact your ability to know what you want to eat, what sounds good, how much you need to eat. It's going to impact your digestion, whether you have heartburn, any kind of functional gut health issues. I work with tons of functional gut health issues, and the issue is there's just too much nervous system cycling and not enough time and space for your body to heal. That's the bottom line. And so we really have to work with like lifestyle management here to like slow things down and work with what your body is. And so when you are in just chronic overactivation, underactivation, it just makes you feel like you're so tired, but you feel like you can't stop, because if you do stop, you'll feel the fear or feel the overwhelm or feel the sadness, and it feels like that's not tolerable. And so what that eventually just does is it creates a lot of like, I call like dis-eases, where it's like, you don't have a diagnosis of anything. You just feel like crud, basically. And everything's hard and you feel tired and foggy and overwhelmed all the time, but you feel like you can't stop. And obviously that's really wearing to your body and all its, all your systems. So my thoughts about that are today is to think about what resources do you have today that make you feel like it's okay and safe, relatively a little safer to slow down. And it may be not slowing down with activity. Maybe your activity isn't like too much for the circumstances. Like things are congruent, but your mind's spinning. Something you might need to do for that chronic condition of like mind spinningness is to say, oh, I'm doing that thing right now. There's that motor that's racing. Almost like a hand here, like, oh, I'm doing that thing. And put your hand here and go down like, oh, I'm doing that thing. Find my feet, and my back. We're not doing that right now. And just sit. That's all you need to do. I mean, it's way more complex than that, of course, of like undoing that pattern. But for today, I want to give you that one tool, that one resource to catch that obsessive spinning and overthinking. That's a sympathetic strategy. All OCD is like threat response. That's all it is. And when we do it with calorie counting, with orthorexia, with getting the food rules right and always trying to show up perfect and caring too much about what everybody thinks about what you're eating and what your body looks like, that spinningness is sympathetic. That's a threat response. We have to orient toward the good to know if there's something around us that's relatively okay enough to slow down. So I know today's a lot of information. Like I said, I've been studying this for almost 10 years. So I have a plethora of information that will help you learn about this, teach you about this. Another great podcast would be the Polyvagal Podcast. There's just so much work to not work, but there's so much resource out there. I talk a ton about it as well, in all my individual and group programs and all that kind of stuff. So to make it simpler. But we're going to be talking really specifically on Wednesday and Friday about what's happening in your system when like diet thoughts are loud, when it feels like you can't digest anything, when you can't get moving with movement, like what do you like and how do I do it without it being triggering? What is actually happening? And a lot of us will say like, well, of course, like I got burned out on exercise because I overdid it. That's totally true. Totally true. And sometimes there's some fear underneath the fog that's also preventing us from getting some clarity about what we might like to do, because movement actually helps a lot with this regulation, which was what all this is. But we're going to go deeper in today, Wednesday and Friday, a little bit more. So thank you all so much for watching. Again, this is a ton of info. I hope you all watch it again, take notes, ask me questions, because the more you all interact with me, you're making this a community. It's just not about me just teaching something and you're passive participants and then you listen to stuff, you watch stuff, but you don't take action. The point of all these videos is really about action taking and healing. if that's not happening from these videos, I mean, I might do something else. It's one of those things. So please ask your questions. I will do my best to address them in upcoming videos, that kind of things. But this is also here to like help each other. So if somebody mentions something and you can tell it's really coming from a disordered or dysregulated place, feel free to gently and lovingly be curious about that for each other as well. I mean, this is meant to be a place where we all learn and grow as well. And we do that better in community. We just do. That's part of the social engagement system. And our bodies are wired to connect with that. So it's not just me that you're listening to or watching. It's how am I using this as a resource to feel a little safer, to take some action. Okay? So I'd love to hear your thoughts, your comments, what you know about this topic. If this is the first time I've ever heard of all this stuff, please let me know. So I can always kind of tailor feature information to help as many people as possible. And finally, if you thought this video was valuable and it's good content, please pass it along to your friends. I mean, it's one of those things like I can't tell you how many times that I appreciate people sharing things that took me to a rabbit hole that I really, really needed. So I appreciate you all very much. All right, well, so thank you. I hope you have a great day. Be looking out for every single day. There's going to be either a video or a prompt for something for you to think about and to take some action on. And again, to make this topic and every topic I do, something that continues your recovery. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.